Have you ever had a bad drawing day? A day where you feel like everything is going wrong. The very first drawing you did is crap. Your entire drawing ability is crap. Everything that you try to draw, which should be ridiculously easy, is just unbelievably hard. Have you ever had a bad drawing day? Remember, drawing is fun. If it's not, then you're doing it wrong. And second, drawing is a game. It's a puzzle in which you need to find a unique solution. How is drawing like a puzzle? Let's take a look. Drawing is a game. It's a game where you try to capture a really complicated set of visuals, a really complicated image with very simple lines and shapes. It's also like a game because even though you keep drawing, you don't really make progress each time you draw. As a matter of fact, it doesn't seem like you're making progress at all, which can be really frustrating and demotivating. But then all of a sudden you find that you get it, and you're able to raise your level seemingly all at once. These epic wins are the point at which you're able to level up and really add a new technique to your tool belt. Later, after you've mastered a couple techniques, you'll be able to combine these techniques into mad combos. Pretty soon, you'll find that you're combining so many effects that you're not drawing like any one particular artist that you like, but that you're actually an amalgamation of different artists and different preferences and different techniques, and you'll start to find that your own style starts to emerge. And this is what we call finding your voice. Each artist has their own unique individual way of solving the problem of taking the complex world and turning it into their own visual language of lines and shapes. A true artist is unique and confident in their uniqueness. It's your own individual voice, your own individual style that people keep coming back to you to see what it is that you have drawn next. And this is what we call mileage, because you really do have to draw and draw and draw until you reach those breakthroughs. So how many of you still draw like a kindergartner? It's okay. I've taught high school classes in which most of the students came in not drawing any better than they did in kindergarten or first grade. The only difference is that they drew joyfully and without shame as a kindergartner, but now they're embarrassed to have their drawing seen by others. So what are we going to do about this? Well, first we have to understand what is observational drawing. Again, it's taking the puzzle of taking in that complicated world and turning it into simple lines and shapes. Why do we draw like kindergartners? It's because we draw what we think we know instead of looking at the world through fresh eyes and drawing what we actually see. William G. Allen, professor of visual optics, says that we use up to 40% of our cortex, which is the outer layer of the brain, we use more than 40% to process visual information. So what our brain is doing is not really so much learning to see, but learning what not to see or what to ignore. There's just too much visual data out there. And so our brain is very good at selective seeing, choosing what is important to look at. So then when I, as your teacher, ask you to draw your foot, what do? Do you, like a kindergartner, conjure up some simple shape of what a foot is supposed to look like? An artist takes off their shoe, looks at their foot as if it's a strange alien they've never seen before, and then they draw the complicated set of images that they actually see. This is the difference between drawing like an artist and drawing like a kindergartner. Again, if I as a teacher ask you to draw a happy person, how many of you are going to draw a smiley face? Now, come on, a smiley face hardly resembles a person's face actually smiling. But it is a very simple, abstract image that has stuck in our minds and is easy to store in our memory. But observational drawing is the act of disregarding abstractions and seeing the beautiful, sophisticated world for all of its glorious complexities, and translating them into simple lines and shapes. Kindergartners draw simple abstractions. We need to empty our minds, shut down the knowing part of our brain, and start seeing with the silent part of our brain. Drawing is actually really quite simple. It's just a game of finding the shapes. So stop thinking so much. Stop making it so complicated. And just find the shapes. Shut down the part of your brain that knows so much and go back to not knowing anything. Just look at everything as if it's really strange and then draw it, even in a really strange way if you want. You need to find a unique voice. You want to do something interesting, fresh, and something that captures the complications of life. This is the act of observational drawing. So the strategy I want to introduce today is called stare, see, and stop thinking. The idea is really basic, but artists a lot of times end up skipping over the fundamentals and end up having a bad drawing day. Look, I'm here to tell you there's no such thing as a bad drawing day. So anytime you find yourself drawing worse than you usually do, just go back to the fundamentals and KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't just put lines on the page, and don't just follow some simple formula. Don't forget to actually look and see and find original shapes. The point of drawing is not to make pretty images. It's to learn and see something new. Well, sometimes the point is to make a pretty image. Especially if you're drawing girls. You should definitely make it pretty if you're going to draw a girl. Especially if you're drawing a girl you know. But don't draw girls you know because that can get creepy. And especially don't show them the drawing. As a matter of fact, don't draw people you know at all. Unless, of course, you're doing it secretly and you never intend to show it to them and it's purely for the sake of learning. Well, like everything, it gets complicated. Now, to practice doing this effectively, what we got to do is, unfortunately, we're going to have to turn the drawing upside down. So the image you're going to be drawing is not going to be recognizable by the left knowing part of your brain. Instead, you're going to have to draw with the part of your brain that doesn't recognize things, but has to trudge its way through the complicated visuals. So, during this practice, what I would like you to do is to stop trying to figure out what it is you're drawing and just draw it. Find a line. Connect that line to another line. Connect that to a shape. Connect that to a bigger shape. Compare those shapes to each other, try to get the size correct, and look at the proportions and the spatial relationships. This is the part of your brain, the right side of your brain, that's very good at mapping out visuals. Not the part of your brain that's good at recognizing symbols, shapes, and images. Now, of course, you might be able to figure out what it is you're drawing before you actually finish drawing it, but that's not the point, and the more you get into that, the more difficult this practice is going to be for you. So really just focus on the shapes, the lines, and the visual relationships. Surprised by what you see? Does that look a little better than what a kindergartner might do? Congratulations! You have finally graduated from kindergarten art class. Let's take a look at this particular image. Now, you and I both know that the nose, or the structure for the nose, should be perfectly in between your two eyes. But in the drawing itself, actually the nose is more underneath one of the eyes. It's just a paradox of perspective. When you have perspective and all the other many factors applied, things don't come out the way they're supposed to. Okay? So that's why it's important for us to stop thinking when we draw, stop knowing, stop using all that information that you think you know to try to make up for what you're not actually seeing. Just stare, see, and stop thinking. Suddenly drawing becomes pretty easy. You go into the zone and you just draw. You don't even recognize time flying by, and suddenly you emerge to see an amazing drawing on the table. For those of you who would like a little more practice, I'm providing a second exercise. You can draw this one, or you can go out and find your own drawing that you like from the internet, turn it upside down, and then look at it as it's upside down and try to draw it. Then, of course, and the same as before, after you're done, turn it right side up and surprise yourself with how good your drawing comes out. But for your second exercise, I want you to pay more attention to the bigger shapes and the spatial relationships, for instance, how big in proportion this is to something else on the page. And focus on the big shapes first and then work your way towards the smaller shapes. Don't draw too small. Don't leave a whole bunch of empty space on the page. Don't try to fit all your drawings on the same page. And don't draw too big either to where you don't have enough room on the page. But of course, if you do draw too big, you can always just throw up another sheet of paper next to the sheet of paper you're on right now and just keep drawing onto the next sheet of paper. But do not squash things into the corners. Come on, guys. This is basic.